Hi, I'm Dave Thompson, a member of the South Church Social Justice Associates of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I'm pleased to welcome Henry Klementowicz, staff attorney for the ACLU, to answer your questions about voting during the pandemic. Henry, the questions I have relate around absentee voting. When do I need to request an absentee ballot?
Thanks, Dave. So these are really important questions because typically in a New Hampshire election, we see about 7 to 10% of voters casting a ballot through the absentee process. So we're expecting that number to go way up, which means hundreds of thousands of New Hampshire voters may be voting absentee for the first time. So this is a really timely way to address that question. The answer is there's no technical deadline to request an absentee ballot. And one reason that is because you have the option, if you're voting absentee, to go in person to the town or city hall and request an absentee ballot in person, fill it out, and return it right on the spot. And you can do that up until the day before the election. If you're going to be voting absentee by mail, we recommend that you take into account all the times that there's going to be mailings involved, and vote early to put less strain on the postal service, but there's no legal requirement that you request your ballot by a certain deadline.
Okay, now what if I don't have a printer to actually print the request for the absentee ballot?
Well, you can go into your town hall and do it there. Some town clerks will accept trackpad signatures, but not like a copied one, like a stamp. And really, it's varying right now from location to location how they're processing those forms.
So when do I need to send it back in?
Again, there's no deadline except that all ballots need to be received by 5 p.m. on election day. And if you're mailing it, you really want to get it in advance because you're going to be mailing it to the town hall. There is a provision to have certain family members who are authorized delivery agents to return an absentee ballot by hand to a polling place on election day, but that needs to happen by 5 p.m. on the day of the election.
Okay, great. When do they actually mail out those absentee ballots?
Yeah, so with a limited exception involving overseas voters, ballots, the Secretary of State's office starts sending absentee ballots out about 30 days before an election. So folks who have requested absentee ballots for the September primary, those have gone out already.
Okay. If an absentee ballot was requested for the primary before the recent passage of the bill that would allow one request for both primary and general elections, will they automatically receive both absentee ballots?
So that's an interesting question. By way of context for your listeners, the governor recently signed a bill that passed the legislature that allows a voter to use a single request form to request ballots for both the September primary and the November general elections. There's little check boxes that you can check. I don't know if there's been any particular guidance to answer your question, Dave, from the Secretary of State's office, but I do know that you have to actually check that you want a ballot for both the September and the November primary. And if you don't do that, you're probably not going to get a ballot for each. And so I imagine most people who were requesting ballots before the new form just checked one election. I think the safest thing to do is either call your town clerk and ask them what they're going to do, or just fill out a new request form and send it in.
Great. One final question for you, Henry. Can I have an absentee ballot sent to a different address that is not my permanent address?
You can, and this goes back to the old initial reasons that people used absentee ballots, is they were literally absent from their permanent address. And so, COVID notwithstanding, if you're going to be out of town on election day, you've always been entitled to vote absentee. That's the absent part. And so there's a spot on the form to indicate where you want the ballot sent if it's not your permanent domicile address.
Very good. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.